Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Wednesday, October 25th. It just happens to be my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. Just saw my mom last night because it was my birthday. That's right. You may notice if you are watching this after the fact that you'll see in chat there are 3 individuals who were hanging out last night thinking there was a show, but they weren't paying attention last week because I said no show on Tuesday. It's my birthday. Thought that was kind of funny when I opened up the chat window and I saw, oh, look, there was a chat from last night that's part of this video now. Okay. All righty. Anyway, this is live stream number 978. If you're not overly familiar with this show, let me point out, super casual around here, just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then we either take a look at a tabletop game, either board game, role-playing game, what have you, or I share a live review every once in a while. It's not too often that I do the live reviews. But tonight, we're going to be taking a look at a highly anticipated role-playing game from my friends over at Cubicle 7 Entertainment. Yes, that's right. I am talking about Warhammer 40K. Imperium Maledictum. Doesn't really roll off the tongue too well, so I can guarantee I am going to mess up the title of this role-playing game a few times tonight. I just know it. But stay tuned. We're going to be diving on into that, and I am also going to have a giveaway. So I'll tell you how you can get into the running. And there might be multiple copies of Imperium Maledictum to be won. Stay tuned. You'll find out. Anywho, if you are watching live because you want to see the first look into Imperium Maledictum, keep in mind, always tackle the tabletop gaming news first around here. So if you are watching live, just kick back, relax, put your feet up. It's hump day, for crying out loud. Halfway to that weekend, to the magical weekend. It's beautiful. Way there on the horizon. But anyway, if you're watching live, just relax. We'll get to that first look because I'm really excited to take a peek at this too, because I have not taken a glance at it. I haven't even looked at the back of the book. So it is going to be all brand new to me too. But of course, if you happen to be watching this 30 minutes or more after the stream ends, there will be timestamps. They are located in the show notes. So if you want to jump past the tabletop gaming news, although I've got cool news as I always do, you'll be able to jump past it if you're one of those impatient types. In fact, those timestamps might be right there in the timeline of the video, depending on what device you happen to be watching this on. Lastly, because this is a live stream, that means there is chat available. In fact, you even get a bonus chat from last night. So there you have it. Look at that. But you do have to be a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours in order to take part in chat. It's one of the ways that keeps some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But first out the gate tonight is, I believe I thought I saw it was Kathy Evans. And it was, yes, Kathy Evans is with us. Shaz is hanging with the gang, as is one of our chat moderators, Flaming Huron. From Australia is joining us, Scott B. Smith, one of the aforementioned people in chat last night. It's okay. It happens. It's not the first time where it's like, oh yeah, there's no show XYZ day. And people hung out, were like, hey, what's going on? Where's the show? Why is Jeff running late? 245 Trioxin is also in the house, as is another of our chat moderators, Sarah D. Yeah, so Sarah is wishing my mom a happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And a happy belated birthday to moi. Yay. We didn't do anything too exciting. Just went over to my brother's, hung out, because it's also, yesterday was also my sister-in-law's birthday. I'm a year older than she is. So we celebrate all three birthdays just in one shot. So that's what we did. It was fine. Yeah, just had dinner and hung out for a little bit. That was about all. Sarah D points out tomorrow is her day off, so her weekend is here. Yes, very nice. Hopefully you have something interesting planned. 245 Trioxin says, Maledictum, I barely know him. Zoinks! But dun. Do a little rim shot there. I said rim shot. Mine out of the gutter, please. All right, let's jump on into the news, because arriving next month from Hall Games and Pegasus Spiele is Djinn. And here's what I know. Once your ancestors found or created a source of magic, the exact knowledge of its origin, as far as you know, has long been lost. A small community is developed around the source, which seeks to protect this place and keep it as secret as possible. Unfortunately, some magical beings, half corporeal and half ethereal, have now tracked down this source. These beings of dubious character, which you call Djinn, have appeared in various places of the city to dispute your access to the source. You are young members of the Magic Guild, and to prove your abilities, you are tasked with capturing the Djinn so that they can do no harm. You can control them permanently only if you catch them in special Djinn bottles. To seal these bottles, you also need corks made from the bark of a tree near the magical source. Whichever of you succeeds best in protecting your small town will be accepted into the inner circle of the Magic Guild and will soon be allowed to learn even more secrets. In Djinn, you take turns moving across a map that shows 13 locations. These locations are linked to actions where you can get the resources you need and catch the Djinn that are in 6 locations. In those locations, you can do things like receive bottles and corks, collect magical power, buy magical items, hire mages to accompany you, discover secret passages, and more. I gotta say, out of all those options, receiving bottles and corks seems to be the least exciting of the bunch. In each round, you can reach only one of 2 or 3 of these locations. So you must plan carefully to have all the resources you need in time to catch the Djinn. The game ends when all 6 boss Djinn have been captured and removed from the map, and then you get to score points for all the captured Djinn. Obviously enough, whoever's got the most points, winner, chicken dinner. Djinn is for 1 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, plays in 70 to 90 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $69.99 when it arrives in stores in November. Very nice. I have to say, this looks like it has a nice visual appeal on the table. It looks kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. Going around catching genies. Yes. Putting them in bottles. And then giving them to Air Force majors. All right, let's see who gets that reference out there. So there you have it. Jin from Pegasus Spiele and Hall Games. Moving right along, also landing in stores next month is The One Ring, Tales from the Lone Lands. Now they had gone on far into the Lone Lands, where there were no people left, no inns, and the roads grew steadily worse. Not far ahead were dreary hills, rising higher and higher, dark with trees. On some of them were old castles with an evil look, as if they had been built by wicked people. Tales from the Lone Lands and its 5e D&D adaptation, Tales from Eriador, includes a troll hole, if ever there was one, and Kings of Little Kingdoms, which are relatively self-contained adventures, but still hint at a growing danger. There's also Messing Around in Boats. Messing Around in Boats involves directly one member of the company in an unexpected way. Not to strike without need and wonder of the northern world follow the slow infiltration of spies of the enemy, and the quest of Amen Gurathros challenges the heroes to battle an ancient evil. All the adventures in this expansion assume that the time frame is the years around 2965. So this is the question that I've got. So we get Tales from the Lone Lands, and it tells us, okay, a troll hole, if there ever was one, Kings of Little Kingdoms. But then the information that is given in the sell sheet mentions 3 other adventures. It's like, okay, so which one is it? Which one is? There you go, Flaming Huron got the reference. Major Nelson. Dun, 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 dun. I actually had an opportunity. I met Barbara Eden once. Long time ago. But she was very nice. I was at O'Hare Airport. So Flaming Huron says, speaking of the One Ring, I got an announcement that you could still back the Moria release through Backer Kit, even if you missed the Kickstarter. I don't know if that is the done thing usually. You know what? I did get an email about the ability to back it through Backer Kit. I got to be honest, I don't think I have heard of late pledges through Backer Kit from Free League Publishing before. Now, a lot of companies do that. A lot of companies do their Kickstarters, and then when the Kickstarter's over, they'll do like a late project on Backer Kit. But I think this is the first time. So Kevin says they think they saw one other Kickstarter that allowed late backers. Oh, I'm not saying that they don't do late backing. I just don't know if it was always through Backer Kit. Anyway, back to this adventure book. The 120-page hardcover with PDF, which I am going to take a guess we should be able to have an opportunity to see, because normally my friends over at Free League Publishing send along, all the releases for the One Ring and Lord of the Rings role-playing. Anyway, this hardcover with PDF, which clocks in at 120 pages, it's going to carry an MSRP of $39.99 when it arrives in stores on November 14th. The PDF is not available over at Drive-Thru RPG yet, although I have a copy of it. Hey, I'm special that way, right? I tell you before, I'm special, like those Olympics. Anyway, I have a copy of this in PDF, so we know the PDF will be available at Drive-Thru RPG shortly. And I do want to mention, when I share a first look at this book, I'm going to have a contest where one lucky viewer is going to win the entire full run of what's available for the One Ring second edition role-playing game. And another lucky viewer will win the same thing, but with Lord of the Rings role-playing. Yes. So stay tuned. That will be coming up soon, I would think. I usually get my hands on the releases from Free League Publishing 2-3 weeks before they hit stores. I'll have to reach out to my contact over at Free League Publishing just to make sure. But very nice. I love the artwork. I love the line artwork that we see in the One Ring second edition, as well as Lord of the Rings role-playing. Really, really well done. Moving right along, currently available in print and PDF is the second edition of Ultraviolet Grasslands and the Black City from Wizardthieffighter and Exalted Funeral. Here's the scoop. Pulse confirmed. Entity energized. Remember, keep your Omni batteries charged and your haze meter at the ready. Revel in the return of the Ultraviolet Grasslands with the highly anticipated UVG-2E, now dazzling with fresh cover art that teases countless otherworldly adventures. This epic journey has expanded from the previous 200 pages to a robust 250, infused with larger and more evocative art to enliven your psychedelic metal quests. Fair hero, the end alone awaits all travelers, and at the end, was the journey all in vain? All journeys end in vanity, Mused the Grand Observer at the end of time. Welcome to the Ultraviolet Grasslands role-playing game of heroes on a strange trip through mythic steppes in search of lost time, broken space, and deep rifts. The Ultraviolet Grasslands and the Black City is a tabletop role-playing game book, half setting, half adventure, and half epic trip. Although that's 3 halves. Somebody's tripping already. Inspired by psychedelic heavy metal, the Dying Earth genre, and classic Oregon Trail games. What a mashup. It leads a group of heroes into the depths of a vast and mythic steppe filled with the treacherous of time and space and fuzzy rifts. So what's new in this second edition? Expanded content from 200 pages to 252 pages. Streamlined character rules for smoother gameplay, while an expanded array of caravan options, vehicles, and equipment lets you equip your party for any eventuality. A brand new bestiary section offers a menagerie of friends and foes to encounter, and revamped spells give you more magical tactics to explore. Fancy a companion on your epic journey? Choose from a table of 50 adorable pets. To keep you organized, there are revamped character and caravan sheets. And to fuel your wanderlust, there's an expanded map featuring the whole Circle C region. But the crowning glory? It's in hardcover again, and it's bursting with more pictures. Embrace the art, savor the stories, and visit the vast lands with Ultraviolet Grasslands 2nd edition. The 252-page hardcover with PDF is available over at Exalted Funeral for $50, or you can grab just the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG for $25. Sweet. I know a lot of people really love UVG. I have the 1st edition, and to be honest, I actually bought it from Exalted Funeral. I bought it, was it last Black Friday or Black Friday before that? May have been Black Friday before that. I did order a few things from Exalted Funeral. I never got around to checking it out. It was weird. I ordered it. I got it. I took a quick peek at it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll share coverage on the show. Never, it never did. And now there's a second edition. So now I'm kind of like, I don't mind getting the second edition. Why don't I get the second edition and I can put it on a shelf and it'll collect dust? Yeah, why not? Ay. My final news piece, now available in PDF and hardcover from MCDM Productions, is Where Evil Lives. And I've got the lowdown. Every once in a while, I like to say, evil. Flaming Aaron says, time to share your first look. Yeah. Hey, everybody, I'm going to share my first look at 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons. So sit on down. The best dungeons have fun boss battles, exciting hazards, and of course, awesome treasures. Where Evil Lives, the MCDM Book of Boss Battles, say that 5 times fast, has all that, plus everything you need to run a layer out of the book in a moment's notice. Use a dungeon when you have nothing else planned, or build an entire campaign that leads up to a climactic encounter in a layer. We've got 22 dungeons in here. There's at least one dungeon for each level of play from from 2nd to 20th. I almost started off at 22nd. Yeah, from levels 22nd to 41. Okay. It's levels 2 through 20. Each layer contains a unique action-oriented boss with memorable dynamic villain actions. Every monster stat block you need to run the layer. That's 151 unique stat blocks. A treasure hoard tailored to the dungeon's denizens that includes an original magic item, plus other unique rewards. There's also a full-color map with links to a Game Master version that has all the information you need to run the dungeon, and a player version that keeps those secret doors and traps hidden. There's also detailed descriptions of traps, hazards, and NPCs. Each stat block in Where Evil Lives is from the rigorously playtested and developed bestiary Flee Mortals, which I shared a news piece about last week. That means each foe is more than just a bag of hit points or a list of spells. Each foe has at least a couple of action options in their stat block that will keep players on their toes and combat fresh and engaging. You'll also find the rules for 4 new types of creatures. Action-oriented creatures. Boss monsters just got a lot more fun to fight. Each lair boss has fun and impactful villain actions that turn an encounter into a showstopper. Every action-oriented creature also has a way to succeed on a saving throw that costs them something. Hit points, speed, the use of a special action, or something more. It's like a better form of legendary resistance. We got exciting villain battles all tied up in one stat block. Combine them with our layers, and you've got a fight to remember. There are also minions. Minions are a great way to let your characters feel heroic by fighting a sea of baddies without slowing the game down to a crawl. Because, well, a minion is almost as nasty as a regular monster. They die real fast. Every good villain should throw an army of lackeys at adventurers invading their home. We also have retainers, initially introduced in Strongholds and Followers. These are rules for retainers which have been updated and streamlined to make them even easier to use. These player-controlled NPCs make running a sidekick character a snap. Free that goblin prisoner, and now you have a goblin sneak to help you take down Queen Bargnut. And lastly, there are companions. Players love pets, so we made rules that allow you to give players cool companions. Heal that injured abyssal hyena in the Archdemon's lair, and now you've got yourself a new buddy. The 322-page hardcover with PDF of Where Evil Lies is available for an MSRP of $49.99, or you can grab just the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG for $29.99. Nice. I have this in PDF. The fine folks over at MCDM Productions has sent me their 2 latest books, just out of the blue. Out of the blue, they sent me the PDFs. I am going to reach back out to them to see if Matt Colville and his team would be interested in having me share video coverage of these. Even though my days of covering Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons seems to be coming to an end, I will have more about that tomorrow. That does not mean I will not be covering third-party products which utilize the SRD for 5e D&D or are for 5e D&D period. Flaming Heron says they really appreciate releases that consider players that want to play varying levels of games. Marius Smith is with us. Good to see you. Says they also put out a psionic class that looks interesting. There's actually quite a bit that MCDM Productions has put out. In fact, it was just mentioned in that sell sheet info. Is it Followers and Strongholds or Strongholds and Followers? I think it's Strongholds and Followers, I should say. I know that was a pretty popular third-party 5e supplement that came out. I did not have an opportunity to take a peek at it, but I do know I had heard, through the grapevine that it was really good. People really liked it. Especially if you're interested in any sort of domain play. Alrighty, so that is it for the news portion tonight. Of course, I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit Drive-Thru RPG, Dungeon Masters Guild, Storyteller's Vault, Wargame Vault, any of the One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do go a long way to keeping the gaminggang.com website around. Also, got a little bit of time left on the Halloween sale. I will point out, I am disappointed that Drive-Thru RPG, or I should say the One Bookshelf sites, did not go with the scavenger hunt, the Halloween scavenger hunt with the goodies, with the free PDFs and things like that. That's a bummer. But I guess they decide. Yeah, I guess it really has to do with publishers who are willing to say, yes, okay, you can give my PDF away for free for a month. Or I think it was down to about 2 weeks last year. I even looked, I thought, oh, well, maybe since we're in the home stretch of the last week before Halloween, maybe they'll break it out now. No. Nope. And as Flaming Heron also points out, they've got the weirdest selection for their Halloween PDFs that are on sale. Yes. Yes, I am right with you on that. So let's see. Kevin R. Smith is with us. I think I said hi to Kevin. He was another one who was hanging out in chat last night. There's our third person. Roger Perdome. He must have heard. Well, my ears are burning. Hang out. I gotta log out and watch the show. Which is fine. But it was funny because I saw the chat. It's like there's a little chat going on, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a second, there's no show tonight. It's Jeff's birthday. He said last week. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so anyway, Kevin was mentioning there's more to the WotC thing than there already was. No, so I'd reached out because they said, oh yeah, we're going to send Planescape out, and granted, you won't have it before, release day. And as I had also mentioned on an episode of the show, that they had said, oh, well, you're under no obligation to share any coverage about this at all. Just we appreciate everything you do, and we want to make blah blah blah. So anyway, so they were supposed to, and this email I believe was on the 10th. So they were supposed to send a tracking number. They always do. Well, at least they always did when it was the PR company 360 PR that would handle the content creators and stuff. And I had thought that Wizards of the Coast was just getting rid of 360 PR. I guess, I'm not sure, but I don't think that's the case. I think 360 PR is going to deal with the IGNs, the Polygons, the Forbes of the world, and then the Pissants are supposed to deal with this D&D creator account at Wizards of the Coast. So anyway, so they said, oh, we're going to shortly tell you, send you a tracking number. Never got a tracking number. So I reached out a couple of times just asking, did this get sent out? Because I don't have a tracking number, never received a tracking number, and never heard anything back. And it is now the 25th. Off the top of my head, I want to say that didn't the game book come out on the 14th? I think it was the 14th. Maybe it was the 17th, but I thought it was the 14th. And now, maybe it was the 17th. Well, regardless, all of these people have their reviews out there now. So it's not really even worth the effort for me to share video because we're not going to get that many views. Thank you, Roger. Roger points out, yes, it was the 17th that it came out. So Kevin says, not sure. There seems to be a lot of Planescape coverage this week. Right. I still don't have it. That's my point. So I noticed all these people started posting stuff right around the 20th or so. And I don't know. I just, to be honest, I think for somebody who's covered Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons since 2010, you would think I would be treated and my outlet would be treated with a little more respect. And that's how I kind of look at it. That it's sort of like, well, fuck this guy. Well, we don't care. We don't give a shit. Plus, it's very, very obvious that Wizards of the Coast does not want legitimate reviews of their products anymore. They only want sycophants and shills out there. And that's why those people had access to Planescape ahead of time. Now, remember, the contact I had with 360 PR sent me a code for Planescape on D&D Beyond before it came out. And I mentioned that to the contact I was emailing back and forth with at this D&D creators account, and they were not happy. They were not happy that I had access to Planescape before release day. Now they made up a story later on after the fact. But it was pretty obvious in the original response that they were going to have a talk with the contact I had over at this PR company. Now, you don't say, well, we're going to have a talk with XYZ unless they're in trouble. So, Flaming Iron says maybe the intent was to not even give you a PDF release. Correct. That's what I think. Either it was to make sure I don't actually cover it at all and they're just going to jerk me around, or they wanted to definitely make sure that I did not have any opportunity to share a review before it came out, because they probably, like I said, I haven't even looked at it, even though I had the code for D&D Beyond. I didn't even bother looking at it because I never do. When I would get in advance, I always wait until we do a first look and everything else, right? It's just how I do things. Because I want my first look to be a surprise to me as well as the viewer out there. But anyway, I get the impression that, yes, that they were not happy that I got the code for D&D Beyond prior to release day. Because it was weird, because the email I got from my contact was like, oh, hey, I wanted to make sure, I'm paraphrasing this because I don't have the email in front of me, but it was, hey, I wanted to make sure you at least had the D&D Beyond Planescape. Here's the code. So what I think has happened is, once again, they're going to keep that PR company doing what they've done for a few years, and they've done they've done well. I've never had any issue with them. They've always been very nice with me. We had a little bit of a hiccup with a video that I shared a little too much content on, which was weird because it wasn't even all that clear, but people were still pirating the book off of the page through I did. I never thought somebody would be doing that. I just thought that was kind of weird. But I think what they're doing is this D&D creator account is just for the people who Wizards of the Coast looks at as like piss ants. It's the only thing I can think of. It's like, oh yeah, these are the people who have 1,000 subscribers. So, whatever. Like I said, I haven't completely decided yet, but I did send an email today to that account letting them know that I was very strongly considering that I just won't cover Wizards of the Coast releases anymore. Not just D&D, anything that Wizards of the Coast releases. And then here's a super weird thing. So Avalon Hill, which is owned by Hasbro, who also owns Wizards of the Coast, they must use a different PR company, because they had reached out to me to ask me if I'd be interested in sharing coverage and a review of Betrayal, the new edition of Betrayal at House on the Hill. And they've got a holiday expansion, I guess, for it. And that's supposed to be arriving tomorrow. It's like, okay, it's not Wizards of the Coast. That's fine. Well, like I said, I have not decided. I will decide tomorrow. If tomorrow the show rolls around and we still haven't seen Planescape, then I will officially announce that I am done with Wizards of the Coast. And I know there are some folks out there who are like, you know what, Jeff? Wizards of the Coast has every right not to send you something. Of course, I'm not complaining about that. If they told me, you know what, Jeff? We don't appreciate your reviews. We feel that you are overly harsh as far as your reviews of Dungeons and Dragons releases. So we're no longer going to send review copies to you. I would say, you know what? That's fine. That's fine. I get it. I understand. There are other companies I've reviewed stuff for, didn't really care for too much, or they didn't like the review score that they got from me and decided they were never going to send me anything again. That's fine. I have no issue with that. But don't jerk me off, is what my whole thing is. Don't tell me, oh, yeah, we're doing this, and oh, the reason why you haven't received Planescape is because, we moved into a new office. Well, moving into the new office didn't have any effect on all those people who got their copies ahead of time. It's like, so it's just, it's just a bunch of kind of like mamby-pamby, mealy-mouthed excuses, which I hate. I despise that. And unfortunately, that seems to be, the common currency with a lot of these people nowadays. They don't have any stones. They've got no balls. So if somebody calls them out on something, it's just they turtle up and that's it. Oh, I'm not going to answer that email. It's like, really? I don't know what to tell you. I don't need a safe space to go to. My senses aren't overwhelmed. Fleming here points out we are raising soft people. We have raised past tense soft people who are raising even softer people. So I always joke around back in the 1800s, the late 1800s, go west, young man. Shit, we wouldn't get past the Mississippi these days. Be like, go west? Oh, you mean I have to walk or ride a horse or sit in this wagon? Are we there yet? Thankfully, there are a lot of publishers out there who are run by really cool people I consider to be friends of mine in the industry, and who appreciate the coverage that the Gaming Gang provides. And I've said it time and time again. I understand. I am not everyone's cup of tea. I get it. I don't expect to be. I don't try to mold my personality so that viewers will like me more, because I don't operate that way. That's just not me. That's why any of you out there watching who have met me in person at conventions and things like that and talked to me for a while, you find out, wow, you know what? This Jeff is who he is. It's the same guy I watch the streams of, watch videos of. So Kevin says, and it's so hot. Flaming Aaron says the forefathers are rolling in their graves, spinning. Anyway, but I'm going to wrap this up because I know a lot of people out there want to see this, and we still have a brief intermission to get through. But anyway, all I was going to say is, I mean, if I don't cover D&D ever again, it's not that big a deal. I mean, do I take offense? Were my feelings hurt by being downgraded to this pissant category by Wizards of the Coast? Yeah. Yes. I do. My feelings were hurt by that because I've been covering the company a hell of a lot longer than anybody else out there, pretty much. That's just how it is. I mean, there weren't too many outlets out there covering gaming when we kicked off in 2010. And most of those, I mean, there were a handful, don't get me wrong. A lot of them focused only on board games. They didn't even focus on role-playing games. So anyway, yeah. But I won't sit there and like shed a tear or anything if I never cover Wizards of the Coast or anything again. Like I said, I got plenty of publishers out there who appreciate not only myself and Sammy, the outlet, they also appreciate you out there as well, the viewers, that they know that you tend to be informed buyers who choose their products. So there is that. All righty then. So once again, I'll let you know tomorrow what my final decision is. I think I know what it's going to be, but like I said, I'll let you know. Anyway, we are going to be diving on in and taking a look at Warhammer Fantasy. I started saying Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay because next week is actually going to be, well, not on a live show, but as far as videos, it is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay week. I'll talk about that later. Anyway, we are going to take a look at Warhammer 40K Roleplay, Imperium Maledictum, in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
Wear a light-colored costume short enough so you don't trip. If you wear a mask, make sure you can see. Makeup's better. Don't crisscross the street. Call on one side, then the other. Parents, set boundaries and a time to be home. Carry a flashlight for extra safety. And let's all have a safe Halloween.
Ever hear of a gift certificate that turns into a soft drink? Oh, it can happen this Halloween. When you give out McDonald's Halloween gift certificates, kids take them to McDonald's and they get a McDonald's soft drink. Oh, what is that? A book of 20 Halloween gift certificates costs only $1. And can turn into 20 regular soft drinks. It must be the magic of Halloween.
Nobody can do it like McDonald's can.
Nobody.
This morning, Billy looked like any other boy, but as the moon rose, he turned into a werewolf. He used new Pa's Halloween makeup kits. His friends did too. Look, Mike's a vampire. Amy's a ghost. Pa's makeup is safer than masks. It never blocks vision, and it's hypoallergenic too. So watch your kids turn into the creatures they really are with new Pa's Halloween makeup kits.
What are those spooks doing?
Serving Wilkins tea. It's out of this world. Finest tea served, ghost to ghost.
Hi there, guys and ghouls. It's me, Elvira, the Queen of Halloween, and tonight I'm having my Halloween party right here at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific.
After Elvira shows you the weirdest, scariest videos ever made, the terror continues with Alice Cooper live in Detroit at midnight Eastern. Elvira at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific time, followed by Alice Cooper in concert at midnight Eastern, 11 Central, 9 Pacific. A Halloween you'll remember. A Halloween you won't be able to forget on MTV.
Last one there's a Halloweenie.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Yes, all Halloween commercials. So we've got John Mascola, Agent Especial, and Steve Bernier are with us in chat. I think I've said hello to everybody so far tonight. If not, If I've somehow missed out on saying hello to anybody, hello! Fleming Heron says, Alice Cooper and Elvira, what a pairing. What a pair, yes. And Alice Cooper. Yeah, John Muscola, when MTV was great. Yes, when MTV played music. When music television actually featured amazing music. I love Scott B. Smith says, I have a certificate that turns into a soft drink. It's called legal tender. Now Flaming Heron's telling me to get my mind out of the gutter. Well, it's cleavage isn't the gutter. It's just cleavage. Alrighty then. So tonight I am going to be diving on in and taking a first look at the highly anticipated Warhammer 40K roleplay Imperium Maledictum core rulebook, which is from my friends over at Cubicle 7 Entertainment. There are a bunch of authors and artists involved with this. I am not going to read through all of their names because I would just make a mess of them. This 352-page hardcover is going to carry an MSRP of $59.99 when it arrives in November. The PDF is available right now. Now, of course, I should mention, if you order from Cubicle 7 Entertainment or one of their partners, you will receive the PDF absolutely free. But if you just want the PDF, you can get that right now over at Drive-Thru RPG for $29.99. And stay tuned. I'm going to tell you how you can get into the running to win the PDF. All right, we'll get to that in just a bit, but let's swing on over to the other camera. Omanal is with us, says they're catching up on my rant. They're 8 minutes behind the live stream. I don't know, was that a rant? I don't think it was a rant. It was just me being transparent, me sharing what goes on here at the outlet. All right, so let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Imperium Maledictum. A few things I want to mention before we jump on in. First of all, my friends over at Cubicle 7 Entertainment were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the gaming gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. These days, very important that you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of this book, but I do want to get a good feel for what we're going to find inside. And I'm kind of curious about how this operates mechanically, because I sort of get the impression that it might be similar in some ways to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, but I don't know. As far as I know, it is a percentile-based system, so there is that. All right. Let's take a look at the back here. Far to the galactic west of Terra, within the Segmentum Pacificus, lies the Macarian sector, a teeming region of industrious worlds. Named for the legendary Lord Solar Macarius, the sector suffered greatly amidst the darkness of the Noctis Eterna. Unleashed across the Imperium by the opening of the Great Rift, whole worlds have been reduced to ruins, while others fall prey to the honeyed whispers of inhuman powers. Sector Lord Olus Sejanus looks to rebuild his shattered domain, but anarchy and sedition are widespread. The shadows have grown long where once the Lord Solar Macarius's light shined bright, and the fate of an entire sector lies in doubt. Create your characters and a powerful patron to lead them, and join the hopeless fight. Learn intriguing secrets and terrible truths drawn from a detailed guide to the Macarian sector. Master terrible psychic powers and bring brutal weapons to bear on lethal foes. uncover subtle plots, and investigate horrendous crimes. In the face of an uncaring galaxy, dare to struggle for a glimpse of an ever-fading light. The Imperium Maledictum rulebook contains everything you need from grim and treacherous role-playing in the 41st Millennium. I would think it's supposed to say 4. Let's dive on in. So here we have a map of the sector. On a related note, I am certainly looking forward to checking out Rogue Trader from Owlcat Games that is supposed to be arriving before the end of the year. So I'm kind of curious about that. All right, so first of all, got to say, paper stock, solid. It is pretty thick. We're not talking about same sort of thickness that we get with some of that matte paper that we see with the Free League Publishing releases, but still very solid. So we're going to have creating a patron. So they are going to be a powerful figure who draws the characters together. I wonder if the players actually have a hand in that. Creating your character, skills and talents, the armory, so weapons and gear, psychic powers, the rules of the game. So looks like we have tests. And the rules look like they take up about 40 pages. We have some downtime rules here. And then looks like we're going to get into setting information with the Imperium, as well as that sector. We've got a Game Master section, bestiary, and then we have some appendices. Using this book, generally speaking, the first half of this book is for everyone. It contains the rules of the game as well as information that is useful for all players. Those who wish to have a wider understanding of the Imperium and their place within it will find Chapter 9, The Imperium, to be a useful primer, while those cursed to be a psyker will find Chapter 6, Psychic Powers, to be essential. The GM may wish to share some details from Chapter 10, the Macarian sector, and Chapter 12, Bestiary, with characters whose backgrounds or lore skill means they may have more insight than the average citizen of the Imperium. Otherwise, most of the back of the book is intended for the GM's eyes only, and other players are encouraged to avoid reading it so as not to spoil any intriguing plots or frightening revelations contained within. I should mention that I want to say, I don't know if it's the current Game Trade magazine or the next issue of Game Trade magazine, but there is a contest that is going to be for this game. And I'll tell you right now, the contest is pretty cool because you can win one of the limited edition copies, which I know there are not a lot that have been printed. So pretty cool. So the contest rules are in that, and you'll know which issue it is because the cover artwork for that issue of Game Trade magazine is the artwork from Imperium Maledictum. So won't be able to miss that. I see we get a little bit of an opening like we do in the other Warhammer role-playing games. So we got kind of a setting, kind of setting the scene with art for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. I seem to recall that we got to see that as well with Soulbound. And then we have it here. Not as much artwork. The first step of your adventure in the perilous the Carrion sector, and I apologize, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing tons of these names and that, but you know, Warhammer 40K is not something that I am super well versed in. It has been a long, long time since I followed 40K. In fact, it was probably the 90s. Would be about it. Miria says, no Adepta Sororitas. I do not believe so. But you got to remember, there's going to be plenty of additional content that comes out for this. This is going to be, as far as I understand, this is going to be the major Warhammer 40K role-playing game from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. It's not to say that they are not going to continue supporting Wrath and Glory. They actually will be. Because, remember, I chatted with my pal T.S. Lucart from Cubicle 7 Entertainment, and he let me in on some stuff that, unfortunately, I can't tell you about. But if you are curious if this is just going to replace Wrath and Glory as far as the Warhammer 40K role-playing game from Cubicle 7 Entertainment, that's not going to happen. But I do really get the impression that this is going to be the main 40K role-playing game. So it is talking about creating this patron. So it's a collaborative process between the players and the game master. Your patron will have very different goals depending on the institution or organization within the Imperium they represent. And this will influence the missions you undertake, the enemies you face, and even the resources at your disposal. So you can randomly generate their faction. I believe the player characters in Imperium Maledictum are sort of troubleshooters. They're sort of investigators. Flaming Heron says, Wrath and Glory is doing well in the hands of Cubicle 7. Yeah, it's doing way better than it was doing with Ulysses Spiele. That's for certain. Omanal says, I think playing rogue traders give the most freedom for players. From what I know about rogue traders, yeah, because you can kind of be anything. But that is also a case in point for Wrath and Glory, because there are loads of player character options with that if you also have the additional source books. So here we have each of the factions. So we can have Adeptus Administratum, Adeptus Astra Telepathica, Adeptus Mechanicus, Adeptus Ministorum. That I'm not familiar with. It's a vast web of preachers, scribes, confessors, and cardinals who promulgate the imperial creed to the teeming masses. Also known as the ecclesiarchy. Its servants have shouldered the burden of ensuing the spiritual purity for all humanity. Fear the Xenos, fear the outsider. So it appears that we have a couple of options for each of the factions. So it looked like there were 10 factions. So Marius says there's a canoness. Sisters of Battle are here, well, at least as a patron. We'll find out. If there is something in particular you would like me to find in here, just let me know. So here we've got Infractionist, Criminal Mastermind or Guild Master, the Inquisition. Bring out the comfy chair. I love that. Ooh, 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 ooh. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. John Muscola is asking if the Adeptus Ascenorium is included. Let's see. I don't think so. Not according to this. But I did see it said Rogue Trader Dynasty right there. So your patron could be a rogue trader. Scion of a dynasty whose fortunes hinge on a warrant of trade. This document empowers a rogue trader with freedoms almost unheard of in the Imperium. Nice. Flame here, it says I was waiting for you to say that. Oh, John Muscola says Assassinorium. Yeah, I was thinking it must be like a assassins. Scott says that'd be big doings if the assassins are involved. Oh, looks like we've got some experts here in chat hanging out. Right, so we got motivation. So we have your patron's motivation, conflict, information, material, reputation, and unity. I don't know about you, gang. I am very intrigued by this. The funny thing is, my nephew Cameron wants to get into miniatures, and because I actually gave him for Christmas one year the review copy I got for Fallout, the Wasteland Warfare, the box set that came out with the minis. I gave it to him, and I was kind of teaching him how to paint miniatures, but he was probably about, 16. Now that he's going to be, well, actually, I think he just turned 22 back in August. So I had considered maybe picking up one of the new starter boxes that are coming out from Games Workshop. But then I sit there and I think it's like, oh man, it's such a money sink. Not that I'd be buying it, but Okay, so we have boons for the patron. So it's all different things. So it could be, they have a drop squad. They have limitless authority. They have a martial training facility. Oh, they also have liabilities too. Well. Corrupt, craven. Argumentative. They're loose cannon. Flaming Heron says, I wouldn't want to try to get back into miniatures these days. I would if, say, like Warlord games, they always had some pretty cool molds, pretty cool sculpts and everything. And they're plastic miniatures back in the day. I don't know now. But their plastic miniatures were fairly priced. John Muscola says they'd get the 40K role-playing game series, not the miniature game. And Darius Termina is with us. Liabilities. The party. Omanal says, I just prefer generic rules like 5 parsecs from home so they can use any miniatures. Oh, yeah, I agree. So we have background and influence. So we've got a good amount of page space devoted to creating our patron, who is pretty much going to be our quest giver, essentially, for the player characters. So we're even going to have a patron sheet. Interesting. So here we have creating our character. Let's see what we've got. We've got career paths. I'm taking a guess. We are looking at Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Yes, here we go. It's going to be similar. Because here we've got our weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, toughness, agility, intelligence, perception, willpower, fellowship. So right off the bat, that's going to tell me that combat should be pretty lethal. Because in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, combat has high lethality to it. It is not difficult for characters to get killed. So those are our characteristics, and those will be all percentile. So we've got different factions. So it appears we've got the same factions as we did for the patrons. And then it's going to go into a breakdown of each of these factions. Okay, so as an example, let's take a look here. We'll dive in a little more depth to the Rogue Trader Dynasty. So we've already discussed a little bit what Rogue Traders are and how I'm looking forward to the computer role-play game of the same name coming from Owlcat Games. And no, I've not been paid to say that. I'm just telling you. Indarius says most Warhammer minis are around 3 times the price they should be these days. Oh yeah, that is one issue I have had with Games Workshop forever. And that is their pricing. 2 things really. Their pricing and the way they treat retailers. They just treat retailers like dog shit. They really do. Okay, so we get a bit of background. What does this faction represent? What are our benefits of being a part of the Rogue Trader faction? You're going to gain +5 fellowship, +5 to either agility, intelligence, or perception. Once again, these are percentile skills or characteristics or attributes, I guess I should say. So you are looking at, on average, at least talking about Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, starting characters probably have a lot of 30s, 40s, and 50s as far as their attributes because it's a roll under system. And so it's a percentile system. So conceivably, if you don't have any positive or negative modifiers and your attribute that you're testing against, say is a 40, well, you roll 40 or less, you succeed. If you roll 41 or higher, you fail. So these are essentially 5% gains. So you get 5 advances to spend on intuition, linguistics, navigation, presence, piloting, and rapport. If I remember correctly, it's been so long since I was I did start running Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Just, it didn't get off the ground. Just, it's one of those things. It's my group is kind of a Call of Cthulhu or nothing. Call of Cthulhu or bust. Oh, we had a good time with the adventure I ran for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. But if I remember correctly, I think an advance is you roll a 10-sided die, and that's what you get to increase your skill or attribute. I think, if I remember right, I think that's what it is. You gain the Dealmaker talent. You gain +1 influence with Rogue Trader Dynasties. You gain an armored body glove, a multi-compass, and 1,200 solars. So then we have duties, which it looks as if the duty is your career. So we've got adventurer, catalogist, diplomat. So it appears that each of the factions, as far as the player characters, have 3 options. So it looks like we've got quite a few, although it does not look, well, hold on. Here we've got our roles now. Let's take a look here. No, okay. I was going to say, it doesn't look like we have the same sort of advancement with the careers like we would in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, where, like, as an example, the Rat Catcher, which is actually a very good character career, has like 4 levels of career. Doesn't look like we've got that here. Love the artwork, though. Really, really nice. I can tell you right now, when I was talking with T.S. Lucart, they are excited at Cubicle 7 Entertainment about this game. They are really, really excited. Now, I do believe, I might be wrong, but I do believe that if you purchase Imperium Maledictum, you'll get the introductory adventure, I think it's called Crash and Burn, that just came out in PDF. You'll get it for free. So we've got bringing your character to life. 10 questions. What is your faith? What is your family? Who is your closest allies? What do you fear? What do you desire? Where does your loyalty lie? Why did your patron choose you? What do you think of your patron? What do you hate? And what will you sacrifice? Each of the characters will also receive a divination. There is no substitute for zeal. Reason is the cloak of traitors. I do think that there is a starter set in the works for Imperium Maledictum. Now remember, the starter set for Wrath and Glory is fairly recent. I'm trying to remember if we even had an opportunity to check that out. If not, I'll touch base with TS and make sure that we get that. Just like we are I think we're kind of behind with our Soulbound coverage. I have to double check on that. Sammy does the reviews for those, but of course I always share the video first looks. Omanal says, I think the work Cubicle 7 has been producing with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay has been very good. Haven't read enough of Wrath and Glory and the Age of Sigmar Soulbound to make an opinion there. Well, I will tell you that Sammy Uhas, who does a lot of the written reviews, she handles, she's done like Cyberpunk Red. She does a lot of our Paizo coverage as far as reviews, although I'm tackling the new adventure path that just came out. But she's tackled Age of Sigmar Soulbound, and I had asked her if she would review it, the core book. She was like, well, I don't really know anything about Warhammer. And I mean, let's be honest. The Warhammer brand name does tend to make most women kind of, shiver, because they're not always necessarily welcome by the fanboys of Warhammer Fantasy, but especially Warhammer 40K. And I could share a funny story about that, but I won't. But I was going to say, I said, well, you know what? Check it out. And if you want to do a review for it, fine. If not, it's okay. Well, she did a review and she really liked it a lot. She was really surprised how much she enjoyed Age of Sigmar Soulbound. And one of the things that really sets that apart is the fact that even in the beginning, the player characters are very powerful. They are heroes. But of course, that also means they're not starting off by going down into the basement of the tavern to fight rats. So, Marius says, this looks really interesting. I wonder what combat is like. Well, we're going to get there because we will get into the rules. So these are talents. So we have skills and we have talents. So I would take a stab in the dark that skills are things which are learned, which are taught, and the talents are things that come naturally to a character. Here's our armory. This is where we're going to have all of our gear. If you are wondering, as far as I understand, you will not be playing as a Space Marine in Imperium Maledictum. That is not in the cards, nor is it something, to my understanding, that is planned for in the future. So we've got tools and equipment. It's kind of cool that we're getting line art of some of the gear. I like that. Flaming Heron says you can still be pretty badass. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm not saying you can't be badass in this game. I'm just saying you're not going to play as a Space Marine. That's just how it goes. Scott B. Smith says, no, Space Marines, unsubscribed. Hey, don't take it out on me. I didn't make that design choice. To be honest, though, I do agree with it. And that's why Marius just pointed that out. Playing as a Space Marine, you'd just be crazy overpowered. Okay, so we're getting into the psychic powers. If you're going to play a psyker, the mutant. So these are the various different psychic powers, which, of course, in Warhammer 40K, yeah, they're sort of like your spells. Omanal says, get the Humble Bundle, which is on sale right now for Wrath and Glory, to see it. Yeah, tomorrow I will actually have a news piece about that Humble Bundle. It's kind of an introduction to the Warhammer role-playing games from Cubicle 7 Entertainment, and it does include Warhammer 40K, Wrath and Glory, and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Age of Sigmar Soulbound. Another one that just, rolls off the tongue. All right, so here we've got our rules. Let's take a look, dive on in, and I can see it is maybe not exactly the same as Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, but it is similar. So you're going to roll 2 10-sided dice, commonly called the D100. So here's your example there. Test difficulty. A routine test adds 20 to your skill. If you have a skill of 54, treat it as 74 instead. A difficult test reduces your skill by 10. So if you have a skill of 72, treat it as a 62 instead. If your GM doesn't specify a difficulty, then the test is challenging, which is no negative or positive modifier. Roll against your skill as normal. Most tests you make in combat are challenging. So, talking about resolving tests. Then, success level, which is what I tend to find throws people off. So, subtract the tens value of the result from the tens value of your skill. The result is your success level. Okay? So, as an example, if you had a skill level, let's say 46, and you rolled a 29, then yes, you have succeeded and you have a success level of 2. Because you're only doing the tens. You're not screwing around with the single digits. You're only worried about the tens. So as an example here, and it works the opposite way too. So here it says the tens unit of the result shown here, 94, is 9. If your skill was 54, then the result is -4 success level. An impressive failure. Tessie Trekkie is with us. Says, I wants the precious. All right, what do you think? Should I tell you about the contest? See, I like to float the contest out at a time when I know you have to be watching the video to learn about the contest. You don't just jump to the end. So this is going to be the contest. Going to make it super easy. I always have super easy contests. For every 40 likes, where did I come up with that number? This video gets, I will give away 1 copy of Warhammer 40K Roleplay Imperium Maledictum, the core rulebook, to a lucky viewer. Okay, so how do you get into the running? Easy. Be a subscriber, comment on this video. I will randomly select from the people who comment on the video. I'm not going to ask a question you need to answer, anything like that. Just share a comment. Please do not just comment 3 words. Me likey, Jeff. It can be about anything. It can be about what you're looking forward to, checking this out, why you feel you should be winning, the copy of the core rulebook, anything you want. So once again, for every 40 likes that this video gets, I will give away a copy of this rulebook in PDF. Also want to point out, if for some strange reason this doesn't get 40 likes, which is possible, I will still give away a single copy of the rulebook to a lucky viewer. Roll for Combat is with us tonight. Good to see you. Roll for Combat says, I like core rules and I cannot lie. Flaming Heron says, let's hope people like the video. Well, you see, the more people who see the video, more people who like the video, more copies I would give away. Okay, anyway, so that was a discussion there, kind of talking about the success levels and rolling tests. There's also advantage and disadvantage, which is the same as always. You're going to actually roll 2 of the 10s as opposed to just 1. If I remember correctly. Oh no, I take that back. When you have advantage, you can choose to reverse the 10s and the units die if it would be more beneficial to you. When you have disadvantage, you must reverse the 10s and then a unit's dice if it would be worse for you. I don't know, that almost feels like a little worse than our traditional advantage and disadvantage, especially for the disadvantage. Omanal says, I have Wrath and Glory open on the computer right now. It has 4 tiers of power. Tier 3 and 4 are Space Marines. Yes. Yeah, Space Marines are in Wrath and Glory. They were all the whole time. They were not like a late edition or anything like that. You just aren't going to find Space Marines in Imperium Maledictum. Could that change in the future? Yeah, I suppose. So Kevin R. Smith points out, so it's basically flip to succeed, flip to fail. Yeah. But you know, that's weird because once again, I read so many role-playing game products. Sometimes rules of games become a jumble that I haven't taken a peek at in quite a while. For some strange reason, I thought advantage and disadvantage for Warhammer 40 or Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay was you rolled an extra 10 die. Could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong. Okay, now we're getting into rules. This is movement rules. We'll get into combat. Here we go. We are now going to get into combat because we're talking about actions. The 41st Millennium is violent and dangerous, and sooner or later, you'll find yourself fighting for your life. This section provides a number of actions you can take in combat. You may also gain new actions from talents, gear, or psychic powers. So those actions are aim, attack, charge, defend, disengage, dodge, flee, run away, flee, grapple, help, hide, improvise, manifest, overwatch, reload, retreat, run, search, seize the initiative, shove, take cover, target location, use an object or feature. So making an attack, you're going to check range, roll to hit, determine hit location, deal damage. So we do have our hit locations, head, arms, legs, body. We also have melee attacks. So of course, if you're going to be using a melee attack, you're going to use a different attribute, different skill than you do for a ranged attack. So melee attack should be weapon skill. And then I think it's range skill. I think that's what it is. So we've got some rules here. So we do have criticals and fumbles. So we have critical hits, and we should probably have a critical hit table or tables. All right, so wounds. So we have critical wounds, exceeding your maximum wounds, which you're not going to have like insane amounts of wounds because it's different. It's not like hit points. I mean, they are essentially hit points, but you're not going to have like 25 hit points. You just simply won't. That's at least that's not normally how it works with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. You might have 14, 15, something like that, even less than that. So we have injuries, broken bones, major injuries, amputations, sudden death. Obviously, we've got medical treatments. Wounds are relatively minor injuries sustained over the course of combat or while simply trying to survive everyday life in the Macarian sector. They are rarely life-threatening but become dangerous as they accumulate. Wounds are gained by suffering damage. Each time you suffer a point of damage, you gain 1 wound. If your wounds equal your maximum wounds, your injuries get the better of you. You suffer the following effects. On your turn, you may move or take an action, but not both. The effect lasts until you heal at least 1 wound. You must make a challenging fortitude test, pain test, or fall unconscious. Repeat this test each time you receive further wounds. We also have critical wounds. 2 ways to suffer critical wounds. When you accrue enough wounds to exceed your maximum wounds, or when an enemy scores a critical hit against you. When you roll doubles on an attack with a positive success level, you score a critical. So you can see a good amount of critical hits take place in Imperium Maledictum. Now, the opposite is also true. So if you have negative success level and you roll doubles, then that's a critical failure. It's a fumble. I wonder if we're looking at, let's take a look here. The melee attacks. Yes, okay. Works the same as Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. So both the attacker and defender roll dice. But one of the cool things is, at least here, is if the defender wins the success level, they normally wouldn't do damage unless they do a critical. And if they roll those doubles, then it's a critical hit. I happen to like combat in games where the opponents both roll dice and that a defender can damage an attacker. Always like games like that because, number one, combats go way faster. So usually games like that have pretty squishy characters. I like that as well. I've never been one who bought into the whole, oh, well, you're this level and now you've got 150 hit points. And I get it. It's not just a physical thing. It's survivability. I understand. But I always thought, hey, you know what? If some big monster gets a hold of you, it doesn't matter if you were first level or 20th level. They're going to chomp you up. So there, it looks like there's a bit of a bit of talk. Duh. I was looking at Tessie Trekkie. That's why I said that. Seems to be a bit of discussion going on about Wrath and Glory and Imperium Maledictum, a little bit of Death Watch and Rogue Trader tossed in there. Okay, so then we get into between missions. So it looks like we don't have a critical hit or critical fumble table. Okay, well. So we've got some downtime, different events, and then we start getting into our background info about the setting. I would think a great many people who are going to pick up Imperium Maledictum are going to have a really good working knowledge of Warhammer 40K. But I won't be shocked if there are a good number of people who do not have any experience with the game world, the game setting, who picked this up. And I think that'll be pretty cool. John Muscola is rocking on out. Very good to see you. Fleming Aaron pointed out, very animated chat tonight. Yeah, chat's usually rocking and rolling. I do agree. I think it's probably the feist. Well, I don't mean feisty like in a bad way, but it does seem like there's a lot of chat going on tonight. Very cool, which is great. I always point out, thank you very much for taking part in chat, because it helps keep you all occupied when I'm just flipping through a book or opening up a board game and trying to look at something to see, oh, okay, so what does this do? What does that mean? Gives you something to do and a little bit of that downtime. Marius asks, how do all of these games compare? Which one works best with measuring out distances, terrain, etc.? They're typically theater of the mind, but they would want that sort of thing in a 4K game, 40K, I should say, game. I don't know. I will say that it seems in this case, you're probably not going to have the same amount of combat crunch as you might be looking for. As an example, and I'll have my review of it shortly. It's going to be part of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Week. Up in Arms, the supplement for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, has not only additional military careers, it's got additional combat rules in it. If you do want a lot more crunch in your Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. All right, so this is just discussing the sector. It's like different planets in the sector. And we get our Game Master section here. Explicit and implied. As a Game Master, you should always keep in mind that the characters in your game are going through hell, not your friends and family. It's deceptively evil to become mired in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, especially while immersed in role-playing. But you have a responsibility to ensure that the horrific experiences that player characters experience do not bleed out into the real world. For example, torture, graphic descriptions of violence or bloodshed may be something that a player doesn't want to see at all in a game. If so, it is important that the entire group discusses this in advance so that everyone knows what's on the table and what's to be avoided. It's talking about tone and themes. Running the games, running investigations, pacing an investigation. Don't withhold clues. When building investigations, many people choose to lock clues behind successful tests or clever thinking on your player's part. While this feels natural, you can't expect someone to complete a puzzle if you don't give them all the pieces. They're just going to get frustrated or jump to incorrect conclusions. Whenever you build an investigation, it helps to build a list of all the vital clues that the players need to solve the case and ensure that each one has at least 3 different ways it can be discovered. So we got a GM toolkit, talking about grid-based combat. So if you did want to use miniatures, you could. And there are plenty of companies out there who make game mats or flip mats, as our friends at Paizo Inc. do, that could come into play to use those. Here's our bestiary. So we are going to get So I wonder if we're going to get stat blocks for Space Marines. Anyway, here's a breakdown of your stat block. Weapon skill, ballistic skill. That's it. I said range skill. It's ballistic skill. Strength, toughness, agility, intelligence, perception, willpower, fellowship. Got your armor. Memory serves me correctly. Your armor are the number of damage points that it soaks up. There's our wounds, 13. No critical wounds, initiative 7. Normal speed, and the resolve is 1. So we get our skills. Melee 40, presence 40, ranged 40, stealth 50. So as you can see, the weapon skill is 35, or weapon skill attribute is 35, but the melee skill is 40. So it must be they got a bonus +5 for weapon skill and ballistic skill, probably due to their like origin, their background, their faction, I guess we would say. Says freeze of play NPC armor is simplified, and most NPCs only list a single armor value on their stat block. When players attack NPCs, you simply apply this armor value to all hit locations. This is far simpler than keeping track of piecemeal armor values for every enemy, especially when traits that adjust armor values, such as rend, come into play. Talking about different NPC roles. Sister of Silence, Astropath, a Tech Priest. Wish we had a little more artwork in the bestiary section. The Astra Militarum, are they now the Guard, the Imperial Guard? Is that what they're known as? Because that does look like a guardsman. Just curious. Once again, as I point out, I am not the most, up to date on all things Warhammer 40K. So we got the Commissar, an Interrogator, Void Ship Captain. Then we've got Citizens and Infractionists. So we got Gangers, Smugglers, Standard Imperial Citizen, Bounty Hunter, Gang Leader. You also have the Heretics. Yes, Scott B. Smith points out, yes, the Imperial Guard has been changed to the more trademarkable Astra Militarum. Ooh, Xenomenaces, which I'm sure we will have supplements in the future, which will expand on this. So we got the Eldari. Back when I played like Epic and, picked up White Dwarf every month, that was the Eldar, not the Eldari. Pink Horror, the Demonettes. So here we've got our appendix, or I should say appendices. Oh, okay, so we do have a fumble table. Curios, critical wounds, conditions, Appendix 5. I want to play. Looks like you can randomly generate. There we go. There's our critical wound tables. I was wondering, I thought to myself, well, wait a second, it's very similar in design, at least, at first glance to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, where are the critical hit tables? Aha, okay. So I want to play this sort of character, and it's going to tell you, all right, so that's your origin, that's your faction, that's your role. So we've got our character sheets, our patron sheets. We've got our index. Do we have anything for Space Marine? No. But it's kind of cool that we do have the index here, and then we also have it broken down to skills and specializations, talents, psychic powers, worlds of the sector. Nice. And there we have an ad for actually all 3 role-playing games which are currently featured in that humble bundle. So there we go. All right, that is a peek inside Warhammer 40K Roleplay Imperium Maledictum, the core rulebook from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. Of course, I will have a review of Imperium Maledictum in the very near future. Don't forget, be sure to get into the running to win at least 1 copy of Imperium Maledictum in PDF that I'll be giving away. Might be multiple copies. All depends on the number of likes this video ends up getting. All right, let's swing back on over to the other camera. I've been talking so long, my mouse went to sleep. Wake up, mouse. Game Master's Hobby has joined us, asking if the new 40K role-playing game is compatible with the old Fantasy Flight games. No. What it actually is compatible with, though, is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay in a lot of ways. And funny enough, the core mechanics of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay really haven't changed since it originally came out. It's always been a percentile-based roll under system as far as I remember. I always remember the weapon skill, ballistic skill, because those are also used in the miniatures games. In fact, it was very easy to port over miniature stat blocks to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Anyway, all right. So, Andarius says, I hope they add Kroot as a playable race. It would be the best new Warhammer 40K role-playing game for them then. Sweet. All righty, that is it for this time out. Tomorrow, we are going to dive on in and take a look at Cults of RuneQuest mythology from my friends over at Chaosium Inc. Yes, very, very nice. This, I do believe, is kind of systemless. It has no rules to it. So even though this is a RuneQuest book, it doesn't have any rules system information in it. So for fans of just fictional mythology, which all mythology would be fictional, but you know what I mean. The mythology that's not based upon any world mythology. So we're going to take a look at this tomorrow. Very nice. Anthony Good is with us. So Anthony Good says, I believe advantage in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is a +10 to your roll every time you succeed. Yeah, once again, it's been like 2 years since I was attempting to get a game of Wifrip off the ground, because I was hoping to eventually maybe lean into The Enemy Within, although, to be honest, I knew there was no way we were going to get past that. the whole thing in. Wow, almost a 2-hour show tonight. Holy cow. I didn't realize it was that late. Alrighty then. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Of course, for the contest reason, you want to give it a thumbs up too. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central right here on YouTube. Thank you very much to Marius Smith for a super chat. Much appreciated. Anyway, if you do ring that bell, it'll let you know when the show streams. It'll also inform you when I upload other videos, such as my recent review of Pathfinder, The Summer That Never Was, the first chapter of the Season of Ghosts adventure path, which I shared earlier today. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you get involved in the contest. And until I see you next time, here's hoping all of you out there get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. And of course, I might see you next time tomorrow